All right, you are listening to Call That Girl's Office 365 show. I'm Lisa Hendrickson, your hostess, and this is show number 56. Just a reminder, you can find my shows and notes at callthatgirl.biz/office365 or at callthatgirl.podbean.com. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel at youtube.com/callthatgirl. Before we get on with our interview this week with our guest, I'm going to do a quick thank you to our sponsor, Rep River. They are web and email specialists. The things I love about them, they're open 24 hours a day. You can actually have a sales rep. You can have a technician. They don't mesh together. They have exchange teams and everything you need to have professional support for your Office 365 products. I highly recommend them. You can email my rep, Steve Harris, at sharris@appriver.com. All right, now I've promised you all I would start looking for some new guests because it's been kind of dry with just me telling my stories. And I was like, I need to up the game a little bit. I need to start talking to people outside of the break-fix world. And so the past couple months I've been trying to find people. And one day I was out on Twitter and I was just searching for Exchange and Office 365 stuff. And I came across this fella that is on the show today named Paul Cunningham. And I tell you, I spent quite a bit of time looking up his online portfolio of what he's been doing. He's kind of like me. He writes books, he does forums, he's a podcaster, and I was like, and he's doing the Office 365 at a level that I'm not at, and I don't know if I ever want to be at that level. So it's like, well, he's a perfect guest. So with that, welcome Paul to the show.
Thank you, Lisa. It's great to be here. Great to talk to you.
Yeah, so before we get started, you have a little bio here. Paul is an independent consultant like me, and he's a writer and a trainer who specializes in Exchange Server, Office 365. He's a Microsoft MVP, which I'm not an MVP, so don't feel like you have to be one. Right, Paul? I'll never be an MVP, I'll tell you that. They don't like He's an MVP for Office servers and services, author and co-author of several books about Exchange and Office 365, and also creates training courses for Pluralsight, and he runs ExchangeServerPro.com and the new Practical365.com site.
That's it. That's me.
That's a lot.
I know. Yeah, I should have put some commas in there for you.
That's okay. I talk fast. My people will get it. And plus, everything I talked about will be in the notes, so go hit the callthatgirl.podbean.com site and click on all the links at the end for all of Paul's info. Oh, Paul, where do we even start with you? First of all, maybe start by telling us a little bit about you and your blog and all the podcasting and stuff. There's so much. I don't even know where to start.
Yeah, I do a few things these days. So I am like you say, an independent consultant. I'm here in Brisbane, Australia. I started in IT actually it was in 1999. So I sort of slid on in there during that whole Y2K thing where everybody was hiring, and I just come out of we just shut down a small business before that, which was I used to be in the amusement machine business, running nice. Like a pinball arcade and the old Daytona driving machines and things like that. So we got disrupted by the PlayStation and all the cheap consoles and things. So we got out of that industry, and I moved into IT. And what is it now? 16 years or more later, here I am. So I've mostly stayed here in Brisbane. I did a little. Spent a little time in Sydney working down there, but mostly here in Brisbane, and just jumped around from outsourcing companies and MSPs, small consulting firms, spent a little bit of time in a couple of big, larger sort of global organizations and a few different industries, local government and things. And a few years ago, I was, I think it was during the GFC, sort of around that 2008 period, I started my first blog, which is ExchangeServerPro.com, and I just started writing, cases that I came across in the field, quick fixes, all that sort of thing. And
what year was that?
Around 2008, or maybe a little before. Yeah, I think I was dabbling with some stuff probably before that, but I think Exchange Server Pro started around 2008.
Yeah, I think that was the year a lot of people broke out, honestly.
Yeah, it was, well, it was a good period for exchange. I lucked into a job with a small company, and the previous exchange specialist was leaving. He was heading for London, and the manager said, would you like to be our new exchange guy? And I said, sure, why not? I'll give it a go. And here I am. So yeah, it's been good fun. Like I said, I've worked, mostly as an exchange specialist in all these different roles, and more recently working in the Office 365 space. So, I've been an MVP since 2012. That was when I received the first award, and
Nice.
just got renewed for the fifth year a couple of weeks ago.
Wow. I've been banned from the Microsoft forums.
Really? The
Yeah.
TechNet forums? Oh,
No,
wow.
not TechNet. From the community forums where people go and Google and look for help.
Right.
I kind of joke about it because I didn't do anything wrong. I think one of the moderators saw who I was and they were like, "Get her out of here." So first day I was banned. It
Yeah.
didn't take long.
Wow, that's brutal. I venture in there every now and then. It's an interesting space, all the Microsoft communities. Yeah, there's a lot.
I think business was slow, and I was like, well, why don't I go try to help in the forums? Didn't work. That's okay.
Crazy.
Yeah, so I see the MVP thing as kind of important, but I've never really dabbled into figuring out how to even get one, so I don't do that.
I can. There's a little bit of secret sauce involved. Like they don't tell you exactly how to be an MVP. It's more of a, I would say that anyone who is actively contributing to the community, like over a long period of time, and who gets noticed, could submit themselves, or someone will submit them. And rumor has it, maybe on your second or third submission, it usually takes 2 or 3 goes before you get accepted.
Oh, wow.
But there's a lot of other factors about geographic regions, how many they have, whether you're working in a space that's a priority for Microsoft, and things like that. The program has changed a lot just in the 5 years that I've been in it. So it's hard to even say, exactly how you would get in these days or how you'd stay in at this point. Yeah, it's an interesting little insider program.
Yeah, I see a lot of those folks on Twitter.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, everyone just tries to be active. Twitter's one of the ways we all hang out and keep up with each other. And
the people in my circle don't. Isn't that funny? No, I don't really see a lot of it. I feel like a lone tweeter. That's why I've been trying to engage with other people, but I just can't keep up, because the reason why I had John Paul is because my listeners are generally break-fix people / MSP. And to hear the word enterprise and all that stuff is not really what we do a lot of. But I do get a lot of listeners that are like random people like yourself that I get emails from. Like, I pick up some stuff for you, Mia. Thanks, and it's funny, whatever. But so I'm trying to expand the audience a little bit and learn a little bit more about your life, because you're an independent consultant. So you come from you're like us. You work for yourself, and most of us do.
Yeah, today I work for myself. I have for about the last year.
Nice.
It is what it is. I mean, Brisbane's an interesting town. There's some opportunities here to work for other companies, but not opportunities at the moment that I really want to pursue. This works better for me in terms of type of work I can do, the customers I can work with around the world, just work-life balance, family time, all that sort of thing.
Nice. Is that your office?
This is my office, yeah.
Here on camera, you can see he's got an office like mine. Big room, big home.
It's good enough. Yeah.
Nice.
But, I mean, it's enterprise is just the same problems at a different scale and a slightly different pace.
Not something I want to do. I've worked in a few large companies though, like Honeywell, where we had a very small. Before Active Directory, was it NT4 or
NT4? I say Novell or something.
Well, no, I worked on a Novell once too, but I never did the exchange.
Sorry to hear that.
I know, that was back in college, but before that was VAX. Okay, I had that before that. That was AS400 stuff. I think that. I totally lost my train of thought now.
Enterprise.
Oh yeah, well I've always done light versions of Exchange. I'm talking administrative on the top level. Like
Mhm.
when I joined a team, they would say, "Well, you can play with the buttons, Lisa," but I never got to go deep in. So to
Yeah.
me, I've always been a help desk person. So
Mhm.
I like doing that stuff. But you do more like hardcore in the server, and you don't do the light stuff, maybe, right? Like,
Um, well, what I found was that as a what they would tag as a messaging specialist in a large company, it was kind of a role that I'd nicknamed senior Outlook engineer because
okay,
you seem to be responsible for everything from the Outlook client all the way through to this, the back end storage and all that sort of thing and everything in between,
yeah,
which was actually one of the good things about it. I mean, you think about everything involved in email, firewalls, certificates, servers, storage, hardware, virtualization, a lot of security concerns, mobile devices and everything right down to the client level. It sort of exposes you to quite a lot. So even though you're kind of pigeonholed into a specialty like messaging, you certainly get to experience a lot of the links in between. So yeah, I mean, I spent a lot of time deploying and designing and architecting and fixing and retrieving from disasters and all sorts of things for those customers. Not so much these days. It's there's obviously a shift towards more cloud services and Office 365. So you spend less time tinkering with servers and more time sort of tinkering with clouds and things like that as well, which is refreshing in some ways. Yeah,
oh yeah,
relieving.
it's totally changed. And you know what, Paul? I remember back in the day at one of my jobs, it was called the messaging team. The whole network guys that did the email side, because then there was network server guys that did other side. So I do remember that. That was like,
and then eventually they started calling it unified communications, and they tossed Link and Skype in there with them as well.
well, I'm sure those companies are now moving to the cloud. But so is it just you, or do you have partners, or do you use referral partners for overload work?
So I'm solo. I'm my only employee and all that sort of thing. I just refer work out if I can't handle it.
Gotcha.
Conflict or geographic problem. I'll just refer that out as in amongst the MVP team. Community. There's plenty of people I can refer work out to there. A lot of them are independent consultants or consultants for small companies of their own.
Okay, I want to get in that team now. No, that sounded good. Well, actually, Paul, what's funny is
and everyone's a specialist at something too. It's funny, like everyone's we're all we're not Exchange server MVPs anymore. We're Office servers and services, which is sort of moved the label away from being product specific. But everyone's a specialist in some ways. Some guys are really good at the compliance stuff. Some guys are public folder gurus. Some guys are really good at storage and Michael Van Horenbeek is the guy you go to for every hybrid question, and it's a good pool of talent and knowledge to be able to draw from and refer to.
Yeah, I need to get in that group. We'll work on that off camera. So, how did you start when I know you were in the, you worked for corporations, you went on your own, but now you're independent. So how do you get work? How do you market your business?
Well, today they come to me, customers come to me, and that's really a result of running the website, Exchange Server Pro for that many years. When I was working for companies as a full-time employee, I had to just simply refer the work away.
Yeah.
At times when I've been working for consulting companies, I was able to say, yes, we can help you. The consulting company can help you. And since I've been independent, I can say, yes, I can help you. It's just a case that currently most of the work comes to me, and I just try and balance. Sorry?
You say yes or no?
I say yes, or I say sorry, and I refer them away. Yeah. And you know what it's like. Not every lead is a good lead. Some people are just not really, they don't know what they're after, or there seems to be a weird thing where people try to stay anonymous while they're asking you to help, which is kind of odd. I would have thought you'd tell me more about your business and let me know who you are, so I can actually respond. But you know, and I just try and strike a balance now between, you know, that consulting work. It keeps me in the game, keeps me up to date, and, you know, keep helping people out, and then balance that with, you know, some other recurring income as well, which is my books and my involvement with Pluralsight for creating training courses.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't check out the Plural one. I'm sorry about that. I didn't catch that. I definitely will. I just created my Outlook training videos.
Mm-hmm.
I made 5 parts to them: basics, advanced, super advanced, exchange, and email management tips.
Yep.
10 of them. So it took me a long time, but I finally got them done.
Yeah, videos lengthy. The courses that I'm making for Pluralsight are sort of in the 3 or 4 hour range, and there's probably 30 or 40 hours work.
Yeah,
do that sort of a 10-to-1 ratio. So you try and fit that into the rest of your life and your day. So it does take a few months to create even a small course.
Yeah,
sometimes, but you and your audience should definitely check it out. I'll give you the Pluralsight pitch. It's
go ahead. That's all you want.
Obviously, it's so all of their author pool that creates courses are all people like you and me. Everyone's, you know, expert in their field and things like that. And I have always had a Pluralsight subscription even before I became an author, because, you know, they have courses on the latest stuff. Like if you know, Server 2016 is about to drop, they will have courses flying out the door for 2016. It's really good for that, what they call just-in-time learning, where you need to know something and maybe watch 30 minutes of video on a new topic that's new to you and see it in action before you go out to the customer.
Yeah, I'm just checking it out right now.
Yeah, it's a good investment.
Yeah, I've been seeing a few of these out there too. So this is where you put out the videos and sell them on there for other techs to buy them.
They have a subscription.
Okay.
Yeah, they charge a subscription. So whatever it is per month, if you did that plus like a Safari Books, you'd probably have all the video and book references you'd ever need for your job all year round.
I'll tell you that my listeners all started out coming from my ebook sales.
Yeah.
And that came from, we were talking about earlier, Technibble.
Yep.
I always try to promote Technibble when I can, because that website Bryce Whitty owns is one of the first websites I found online that made me feel comfortable talking about my tech business, because my neighbor down the street didn't like me. So I found Technibble. I was like, oh my God, there's like thousands of me on there and we all talk openly. So the listeners, Paul knows Bryce, so they met at a thing, a year ago?
Yeah, we met at a conference last year. Yeah, we just happened to bump into each other, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I tell you that the Technibble group helped me sell my books and through the years of me talking about them and doing stuff, and then get the listeners through that. So these folks will like learning this, I think, because there's so many of these other sites, and plus your site alone, the Exchange Server Pro, man, that's just a lot of stuff on there, Paul.
There is. I've been writing it for nearly 8 or 10 years. And nice. There's over 1,000 articles on there now.
That's nice.
So I've been busy, yeah.
Well, once this show gets out, I'm going to push this site with my podcast show, because I really, it's just good, easy to read information too, Paul. It's not over technical. I try to
write it that way, yeah.
Yeah, it's like your last blog, a look at the Office 365 support and recovery assistant. That's not a too technical one for me to go and to be interested in. A lot of times these Exchange sites have things that are way outside my interest, because it can be very technical. And that's what I think scares some people off, is they don't know what those, terms mean, so they don't want to do it. And the migration work took me a long time to get to know myself.
Migrations are how I sort of established my name. So I wrote a migration guide for Exchange 2010, and that was probably how I I'd already been blogging at that point for a few years, but that would have been the first, I don't know what you would say, thing I became known for, if you know what I mean. So probably 50% of the customers that I deal with, it's a migration situation, whether they're just upgrading their server or, upgrading, moving to the cloud or something like that.
How many mailboxes?
Smallest one I've done is, 10. Largest one I've done is thousands. I mean, it's a, yeah. And like I was saying earlier, I mean, enterprise is just the same problem at a different scale and slightly different pace. So, a lot of the small business customers, you're dealing directly with the decision maker. They're happy to take your advice, and just really all they're interested in is how much it's going to cost me and when's it going to be done.
Yeah.
When you start dealing with the larger organizations, you may not be dealing with the person who, signs the purchase order. They'll have other concerns, business stakeholders who are concerned about when's this going to happen, what impact it's going to have. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And there's a little bit more sort of that political finessing and human side of things to get through. So, there's nothing about a small business that doesn't translate to an enterprise. You just got to approach it with a little bit more patience and communication and things like that. But mostly, I mean, Office 365 is Office 365. It's not like you're deploying or migrating them to a different version of Office 365 just because of their size. It's literally the same service, whether it's for 10 people or 1,000.
But for me, Paul, after 20, I start to get into not comfortable land because I started doing my migrations by hand, and I've always done them by hand. But just recently, in the past year, I've been adding Migration Wiz and working with AppRiver's team to get me comfortable so I can start taking on bigger jobs. Well, the problem I found is I don't know things like shortcuts like PowerShell. I don't know PowerShell, so I have a tech now who's my PowerShell tech to go in and get things done fast.
Yep.
So that's where I kind of was like, well, guess what? I can still do the big jobs. I just don't do all the work.
Well, the tooling is really important, and I don't have a commercial relationship with Migration Wiz, but I think it's a really good tool.
Yeah.
Every time I've used it, it's worked, nearly perfectly, and it's a good example of standardizing your own sort of like approach on a tool. So Migration Wiz can handle so many different scenarios, but then so can like another tool. And so, you've got the Exchange native tools as well. But I know consultants and businesses who go in for, 100% of engagements, they use Migration Wiz. And that's all they do. And if the project, if the customer, I don't want to pay for the Migration Wiz licenses or whatever, it's just like, well, we can't help you. That's how we do it. And they know that the reason they standardize on that is because they understand it. They're familiar with it. They know what it's going to cost. They know they're going to get the support they need and all that sort of thing. And in terms of their efficiency and their ability to turn over jobs and, keep their margins healthy and things like that, that's more important than doing a custom migration solution for every different customer out there. It just eats up time, and you don't get anything, valuable in terms of your own, tooling, extra scripts that you use on customer A, you can use it on customer B.
That's the word scripts. See, I don't do that either. I just do everything by hand, and I got to get my mentality changed, Paul, because, well, the thing is, I'm kind of happy where I'm at. I kind of like my 5 to 10 people migrations. It's a few $1,000. I get them done. And I'm not sure I'm that kind of tech that wants to do big scale. So maybe I never will. Well,
scripting and automation are about consistency, not so much scale. So back when I first became, the exchange specialist at that company I was working at, I did everything by hand and stuck with it for quite some time, and created a few little scripts here and there, but nothing real major. And in hindsight, we probably could have either A, done the job a little bit lower cost for the customer, or B, just healthier margin, for the business and not sort of run so close to the edge. But when I started working on a dedicated messaging team for a global organization, there's no choice. You have to learn PowerShell because there's no other way to manage something at that scale. Yeah. But everything I learned in that environment, I've used on every size customer ever since, whether they're big or small.
I think that's common though. And once you learn the shortcuts, why do it the long way?
Yeah, and it's not even, like I said, it's not even about scale at that point. It's more about like consistency, knowing that every time you do task X, it's going to follow the same sort of scripted process and give you a result at the end that you can work with. And there is that initial learning sort of curve with PowerShell. The best book I've ever read is by Don Jones. It's called Learn PowerShell in a Month of Lunches. And literally you spend your lunch break reading the book and doing an exercise. And the thing about that book is it's PowerShell. It's plain PowerShell. It's not teaching you PowerShell for Exchange. It's not teaching you PowerShell for, Office 365 or Azure or anything like that. It is pure PowerShell on your desktop, managing basic Windows stuff and just getting all those PowerShell concepts under your belt. And a month into it, you've invested a month of your lunches and now you have the fundamentals down pat. And what you realize from there is the same PowerShell you learned for the Windows operating system is the exact same PowerShell for Exchange or Skype.
One.
The only thing that changes is the commands. All the other stuff like how to write scripts, script logic, loops and things like that is all exactly the same. And even how you do command discovery. So one of the things you learn early on in PowerShell, if you learn it, is not so much how to remember exactly how to run a particular command. It's how to actually discover what you should be running, how to find commands, how to find their parameters, how to find their correct usage and things like that. And it's like a self-teaching language. And once you get that under control, there's really nothing in PowerShell you can't do for any product.
Oh, well, I'll put a link to that book in there. I mean, I probably won't read it, of course, but a lot of these other folks might in a month. I tell you one thing, I tell you one thing I love about the techs is that they are so hungry for knowledge. Me too. Yep. But I'm talking about all techs. It's like they figure something out. They want to go learn it, and they will go buy it. And I love that about our industry. It's not many techs talk about money. They talk about the knowledge, and I like that.
Well, everyone wants to feel confident, walking into the job that they know what they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And, well, speaking of that stuff, so now I know that your website's international. So when you are, you don't market, but do you get a lot of calls from the U.S. and from other countries?
Yeah. I would say most of the customers I've dealt with as an independent have been in the US or Europe or the UK. Strangely, not that many local customers. I have a few. Some I can actually go and see locally, but
why would you? I'm like, I don't want to go meet anybody.
But yeah, most of it's remote work for the US, and the time zones work out all right. We can have a meeting, at the start or the end of my day, which overlaps with the start or the end of their day. And if there's out of hours work that they need done, it's just the middle of the day for me. It's it's a big deal. Yeah,
kind of reminds me of my tech I have in the Philippines. We're kind of at that perfect little time where he goes to bed, I'm getting up, and Skype a little bit,
do a little handover,
yeah. Well, it is nice. I've been training him on some Outlook detail work. He's a former military guy living down there, and his wife, and I'm like, he is so techie. I love it, but I don't want to do Outlook expert work because honestly, Paul, I don't think I can have an apprentice to do my stuff, but to learn custom forms with some little Visual Basic on the back end, sure. That guy's Yeah, so if you need anybody, let me know. He's really good. All right, so I have a few more questions. I'm really intrigued now that I know a little bit more. So do you sell like projects by the hour? Do you just give a proposal? Do you have retainer clients? Tell us about that stuff.
I don't have any retainer clients. I'm not really sure I want any retainer clients. Actually, no, I lie. I have one retainer client, and that's my wife's business.
Oh, cute.
I take care of them. But as an independent, I always felt vulnerable to having customers on retainer who then have an expectation about speed of support, hours of the day and things like that. And if you have two competing requests, how do you balance that out? At some point, you're going to have to say no to somebody who's expecting a yes. And also because it's the type of work I don't really want them calling me for, to be honest. I don't want 10 p.m. calls about servers falling over.
Yeah.
I'd rather their IT people handle that. I'd rather they contact me, to help them with more complex architectural type scenarios or migration scenarios, and things. I'm not as young as I used to be. I don't like doing the all-nighters recovering servers, and it's not particularly rewarding work anyway. And it's one of the reasons I'm such a fan of cloud services. No one rings you at 2 a.m. and says, just it doesn't happen. So
I still get that.
But when they do call, it's either a short engagement, we've got this problem, can you just come in and do a few hours, or we have a project in mind and you go and scope it out and do a proposal.
Nice. You're project oriented. Get the project, get the scope, get the proposal in, request for proposal, the RFP, whatever. So you're doing bigger scale. I like that.
Yeah, well, you've got to at least get the financials and the commercial stuff sorted out. It doesn't have to be a super detailed proposal, just so that there's like a clear scope. The old scope creep problem has always been there with in the past. It's amazing what a good, clear, upfront proposal can help smooth out down the line when questions of what's in and out of scope come up.
That's the problem. I think what you do is you learn from your first bad few proposals that you underbid yourself, you did the scope of work wrong. And the first migration I did to Office 365, Paul, the owner had a virus on his computer that actually came from the router, which I've hardly ever seen in my life. So I ended up troubleshooting at 10 o'clock at night why 18 gigs wouldn't cross down. And the owner was so mad at me that I was like fighting the virus and trying to do the migration. And I was like, no more of that. That was the first time I learned that lesson. And it was a Windows XP computer too, by the way, back in the day.
Shocking.
Shocking, yeah.
Shocking, yeah.
I think I learned from my failures. That makes me more successful. Definitely.
Yeah. There's definitely... every project should teach you something, whether it's, you improve your technical stuff or you improve your business stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And if everything is coming out exactly the same and you're not learning anything, well, it's probably time to push into a new area or a new level.
That's right.
And just keep growing. Well, if you don't grow, I mean, I don't know how it is for you guys there in the States, but the small scale MSP market in this town has been under quite a lot of pressure.
Really?
So there's a lot of competition. Businesses are fairly tight. Obviously, we've had economic issues in this country and in particular this town in the last few years. Australia is a little bit behind America and Europe in terms of cloud service uptake. Mm-hmm. But when the Office 365 data centers opened in Australia, it was like,
floodgates.
Everybody was, it was almost like that was what they were waiting for, just local data centers and the confidence to have their data sort of on this continent. And a few years of, the cloud hadn't caused America to burn down, so maybe it's time for us to go along as well. We lag behind in things like bandwidth and capacity that you really need, but it's really taken off, and any of the MSPs who haven't had the foresight to sort of plan for that and adjust their business model, they are feeling the pressure. There's been a lot of consolidation, closure and all that sort of thing as well.
But there's also right now that mix between like a company, let's say 20 people, they have an IT budget and they're going, well, maybe we could skim off some dollars and go with the less experienced new person that's, swearing they can do stuff. And that person, because we've all learned, they have their learning curve
Mm.
And one thing I've learned is that techs do often, because they're learning, they will not bill for their mess ups, but then that comes with problems. But everybody has to start somewhere.
Yeah. Throwing in free mistakes is a fast way to go broke.
Yeah.
Because, there's mistakes from lack of research, and then there's mistakes from, well, we didn't know that about your environment.
That's mine, Paul, is I didn't know that was going to happen because that shouldn't have happened.
Yeah. And a little proposal line that says, time spent investigating existing issues it can be the difference between a loss-making engagement and a profit-making engagement.
Outside of scope stuff.
Yeah. But if you're competing on price, like if you're getting beaten on price, I hate to say it, like for anyone listening, you're doing it wrong. I mean, the business owners that I deal with, yes, all business owners are frugal, but they also recognize the value of people who are familiar with their business. And so really, in terms of like your technical ability, we're all basically the same. None of us are special. It's like really any profession. You can go and find another person who can do that job, but can you find the person who understands, the business owner's thinking, can I find someone who really understands my business, how we operate, what we need, what's our priorities, where we're willing to invest, where we're not willing to invest, and steer us towards good decisions, steer us away from bad decisions. And that's the value that you can bring that will keep a customer for the long term.
I like that, Paul, because that also keeps referrals in that industry stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. And industry specialization is actually really important. So if you are just a person in a geographic region offering technical services, that's you're competing on that basis. But if you're a specialist in IT for lawyers, or IT for accountants, or IT for retail operators, you've got a lot more you bring to the table in terms of understanding their business practices, and you're not trying to
HIPAA, medical, dental, financials, lawyers. I mean, if you think of industry, that is a huge tip from you for people listening, because I've been doing that myself, Paul. I hate to say it, lawyers love call that girl, because I have retainer words and I have schedules, and they're my favorites. And I hate to say it, they have no problem saying, "Oh, how much is your ticket? 500? Let's get one." They love the support.
Well, you know what lawyers charge, so that's also, yeah.
I know. But to me, so I actually just today had a meeting with a court discovery company to work with them to deal with email forensics and IT support for lawyers. I was like, I need to niche into something I know that's going to work. So just like you are talking about for MSP guys, find the niche. That makes a lot of sense. Or find the industry. I like that.
Yeah, well, you can bring technical specialties and apply them to an industry. So what do lawyers care about? So they can get access to the documents they need quickly.
Yeah, they just don't want email down.
They can, that everything's going to work when they need it to, that they can securely, transfer information between point A and point B. When you understand all those pain points and you can speak directly to them, calling yourself a ransomware expert is one thing, but, being able to say to lawyers, you've got a large treasure trove of documents sitting on your file shares. I can help you, A, protect them, B, be ready to recover them when you need to. And you can tell them, you can help guide them towards, the best solutions that will, keep them out of trouble, basically.
Yeah. Well, I like that, because in our industry, sometimes niching is a better solution than trying to market to the world. I like that.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. You can't be everything to everyone.
No, I've been doing it though. And here's the thing is, down in Australia, if you go to Google and type in Outlook expert, I should be number one there.
That's good.
I do get some Australian calls, but not many. I get more from the UK and the European areas.
Time zones are a little bit more convenient. Yeah.
I know. But I'm finding that, just because I rank high in Google everywhere, and I'm finding that these jobs I'm taking on are really scattered.
Mm.
I mean, I still know all I call the big 9 applications with Outlook, but I'm starting to find that I'm getting spread too thin with all this Microsoft problems where I'm
Mm.
like, niching into an industry sounds really good to me right now, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can't, I don't know. And today in particular, pardon me, the breadth, like the breadth of services in the cloud, pardon me, Office 365 is not a thing. Like it's a collection of a massive number of services that are all integrated. And while it's important to sort of understand where they integrate and what they can do, it's challenging to be across it all.
So let's talk about your next favorite topic, SharePoint.
Yeah.
I knew that was my surprise. I didn't put in the notes for you.
You know what? I years ago, back in SharePoint, like 2007. Yeah. I tried. I really tried. I gave SharePoint a go, and it never really got past being a big, complex server product that you need to install. And a few years ago, I was working again as a messaging specialist, and we brought in a SharePoint consultant, like a specialist. We deployed a SharePoint farm, and I just went, "That's nuts! I don't even want to know half of that stuff." Like, it's just insane. Like, and no disrespect to SharePoint experts, because they actually bring a lot of value to the table, because SharePoint properly implemented is like it's the heart of a lot of collaboration and business productivity. But I'm so glad that Office 365 has SharePoint Online, because that's something I'm willing to learn. Is you take away all the complex infrastructure stuff and trying to integrate it with all the rest of your environment, and just apply SharePoint, the value of SharePoint, and what it can actually do in terms of features.
Did you do that for your clients when you sell them? Do you do like the setup and configuring, administration, all that, and then training?
I try and hand over, like I try and get them there and then hand over. It's good to have customers who have their own IT person who can sort of drive the ship and maybe just call you for repairs. So, and SharePoint's, it's not the lowest hanging fruit. Like, email is the low hanging fruit in terms of cloud migration. It's easy to get email into the cloud. Yeah. It works, 99% of it is exactly the same. You just got to think about a little bit of latency and a few other little quirks and characteristics that are different than having and running your own server. But once you've done that, the next phase, and this is where you can be of more value to a customer than just being a migration expert, is helping them with the adoption. So yeah, you've got your email in the cloud, but what's next? SharePoint Online is a good example, because you can say, "Well, get rid of that old SAN or that old NAS or that old file server, and let's put it into SharePoint." And start doing document libraries and team sites and things like that. And it's more challenging than just migrating email, because someone who's opening Outlook and connecting to their mailbox is doing it the same no matter where their mailbox lives. But as soon as you start moving documents and collaborations into SharePoint Online, you're changing how they interact with their documents. No longer.
Not any longer, though. There is now a shortcut, Paul.
Yeah.
Yes, I finally found the dream that's going to change my life with SharePoint. I was waiting for you to say that when people in Outlook, because I'm an Outlook person. They want to attach a file and they don't want to go to the cloud to go get it, right?
Yeah.
So the biggest problem break fix techs have had is that disconnect between the desktop and the cloud to get files to sync. I've tried successfully once with Windows 7 to map a drive, and that broke. Microsoft shut that off. Then by accident, I got Windows 10 to sync, and it kept. But not everybody's on Windows 10. So I talked to a SharePoint consultant, and he gave me this little, I'm going to put it in the show notes too, harmony.ie. And this little sucker, when you install it, you got to connect it to your SharePoint server. But my God, it is a plugin for Outlook, and you can use it as like a little, make sure it's right. Yeah, Harmon, HORMON.IE. And this little product really, I think, is going to absolutely change how I can support and service full Office 365. It is awesome. I've been testing it, and they have an affiliate plan. And that's what I care about, is that affiliate plan.
If it works. I'm just looking at it now.
Well, I can show you in my Outlook how it looks. It looks pretty cool. And I got it to work. It
Does it
works.
just give you like a...
Yeah, you know what? Let me switch up my calendar here, and I will. I'll do a screen share if you want. You want to see it?
Okay, so there's a plugin.
Hold on. Let me find my screen. I'm sharing it on first. Hold on. I haven't done a screen share on a video ever, Paul. You'd be the first one.
Yeah, I see what it does. Yeah,
But I like it.
Well, you can already. Well, one of the things it's saying, sharing links, you can already do that. With
Okay, hold on. Let me share this with you. Okay. So see over here.
Mm-hmm.
These are my testing for. This is my test for the SharePoint, and
Yep.
these are all here. And this pops up, and you can actually pick. Yeah. I'm not used to it yet, but anyway, this is all my SharePoint right here. So this is what I've been testing with, is attaching them, and you can use a link, or you can actually attach the whole document. The link, of course, is for internal.
Mm.
You know, like when you're internally working with, like your own company. That's the point of that. But that gives you the desktop option. So I like it so far, and I think my clients are going to like it too. How do I stop?
Well, if it makes it easier,
Yeah.
you know, it's anything that removes friction with the user experience and changing to a new way of doing things is good.
Well, they don't want to pay though. The problem is, Paul, they're like, "Well, I paid $15 a month or $12. I want it all for nothing." I'm like, "Well, you could be in the cloud for that if you want, but nobody wants to be in the cloud."
Well, there's free and there's crap.
So. I get it. They're paying a lot of money, but I'm like, I didn't invent the wheel here. I can only do what I can. And when I talk to folks like you, I feel really comfortable saying there is no easy way to share desktop with the cloud with Outlook. Right?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out. Look, it's like I say, anything that can make it easier. And this is one of those cases where if you bring an understanding of this solution to that problem, then customers are going to.
So.
Yeah, well, as long as it works, yeah.
Well, I feel really defeated a lot of times, Paul, when I'm talking to a client and they're like, they don't really care about the Outlook migration. They sneak around it. So they're like, okay, let's set up a training session, and now let's have SharePoint OneDrive be the training. I'm like, you didn't talk about that when I talked to you on the phone. You wanted calendar sharing with your team and contact configuration. People get sneaky.
A little bit, but this comes back to that helping them with adoption, helping them get the value out of the cloud services that they're buying.
No, I know. I don't do proposals, Paul. I spend like 12 minutes on the phone with somebody. I say, give me $600. I'm going to go do this work for you. And they're like, sold. I do small scale stuff because I have to. I'm a fast person with the help desk I run. Unlike you, I actually do help desk work. So it's my bread and butter.
Well, you need churn. Yeah, you need speed.
I love it. Yeah. All right, Paul. Well, why don't you? SharePoint was my final topic here. I hope we hit upon enough for the listeners to get an understanding of what it's like to be you with your consulting work and anything you want to add.
No, I nothing in particular. Like it's just it's good to sort of talk a little bit of business and know that it's good to see these communities coming up. Actually, when you say these people that you're talking to, you're in communities and you're talking to each other. That's really. I mean, every other industry has it. Why shouldn't we? There's no reason to keep secret. All the lawyers and accountants and other business owners are all got friends and they're all helping each other out, even when they're competitors. So, it's great to know that there's some good, healthy communities out there for IT pros and business owners. Yeah,
you need to get yourself on Technibble and get an account. And there's a huge, not huge. There's a few forums I meant to say that I think you would find really engaging because I know you don't do tech support and virus removals, but there's some really neat forums that I think you'll like.
Cool.
And Why don't you go ahead now and tell us again about your website and your books? And I know that you have that one book with, was it Tony Redman? I think
Yep.
I've been seeing him all over now.
Yep, Tony is he's the godfather of exchange MVPs. He's been 12 years or more, I think. And you know, if you've read an exchange book, there's a good chance you've read one of his, because he's written quite a few. And so he and I and another MVP, Michael Van Horenbeek, we teamed up almost 2 years ago, and we wrote our own ebook on Office 365. And it was originally called Office 365 for Exchange Professionals. And the audience we were thinking of was people like ourselves who are trying to, you know, transition to the cloud, you know, their skills to the cloud, and email being, you know, that's, like I said, that low-hanging fruit and what a lot of businesses migrate to first. It seemed like a good audience. But once we launched that, we realized that, you know, there's so much more that needs to be covered, obviously, as well. We've just kept adding to the book and keeping it up to date. And we only recently launched the 3rd edition, which is Office 365 for IT pros. So we changed the name to just reflect that broader coverage. So you can get that from exchangeserverpro.com. You can also find it on Amazon if you prefer to read books on your Kindle. We keep it updated very regularly. So sometimes Tony pushes an updated file, you know, multiple times a week.
Nice.
So you can always be sure when you buy it. When you buy the 3rd edition, you'll have basically the latest file. As a customer of the 3rd edition, you'll get free updates for that edition, for the life of that edition.
Geez, I do that too with my books.
Yeah.
Isn't
and then,
cool?
you know, in a year's time, if so much has changed, because, I mean, Microsoft's changing Office 365 at an incredible rate. Like, I think a year ago, they announced that in a 9-month period, they made some 400 changes to the service. So, you know, if there's big new features that we need to cover, we might, you know, do a massive overhaul and release a 4th edition. And we always give our customers, you know, a huge discount to upgrade to the latest edition as well. So, you know, we think it's the most comprehensive and certainly the most up-to-date Office 365 book for IT pros. So, you know, by all means, check that out. Otherwise, yeah, exchangeserverpro.com, and I'm launching a new one called practical365.com, which is going to venture out into the broader Office 365 space as well.
Nice. Well, you're very busy. I like it.
Very busy.
I've been trying to follow you guys online. It's challenging. You guys are very busy. And I found you on LinkedIn, and then I invited you there, and then I'm seeing other people's stuff. I'm like, isn't it crazy to keep up with the social media today? Just following text.
Yeah. And it's nuts trying to keep up with the technology. And I try, like, I get really excited about all the stuff happening in Azure, in the Microsoft Azure cloud and Amazon Web Services, and it's too much. Like, at some point you've got to pick, you know, what you can follow and specialize in. In my case, it's Office 365 and Exchange, and everything else has to go on the back burner for now. And yeah.
You know what? I just finished those videos, Paul, because it's been on my plate for 2 years. I wanted to create what I would call the Outlook training videos for people who have ADHD. Honestly, they want a 5-minute video, so I gave them 9 short videos.
Yep.
And I'll talk at this level like I'm talking right now. So the fast people will get it, and the slow people can slow down and rewind.
Yep.
I was like, and I think I'm going to sell them for like $50, and just, you know, they're all online, and it's been a project I wanted to get done. And I'm like, it really took a long time.
That's perfect. Well, that's what people want. They want minimum time spent to learn, pardon me, the maximum amount. And no one wants to watch more than a 5 or 10 minute video in a single sitting anyway. So
no, and that's why I wouldn't.
Except for this one. This is obviously a much longer video they'll enjoy watching.
Yes. Well, this one we're going to probably send away to a lot of people to watch. But the point is I think what I was getting at is that I was starting the marketing for this video. And I was on social media going, oh my God, there's so many outlets to sell this and to find the right people and the message and all that stuff. And sorry, that's where I was going with that. It's just there's so many groups, this and that and everything else. Well, Paul, I thank you for coming on. If you got anything final you want to say, and then I'll get your links for the notes after we're done here.
No, it's been my pleasure. Happy to come on today, and people know where to find me. I'm on Twitter as well, and that's there are all my listening posts for questions and things like that. So always happy to help people out when they got Exchange problems, Office 365 problems.
Oh yeah, check out the site. Excuse me, I just had it here. ExchangeServerPro.com. They have a free newsletter sign up, and I think you got like 20,000 people on your list.
Yeah, something like that. I should update that number. It's around that, yeah.
Impressive, friend. Yeah, but you've been blogging for 8 years, so that's awesome, though. All right, gang. Well, that's it. I'm going to close up the show there. Thank you, Paul, for being on. And like I said, I'll get all my notes. This has been a Heyman Hendrickson production, audio supported by Mitch Heyman. Thank you again to our sponsor, AppRiver, and Podbean for hosting. If you have a story you'd like to share or want to be a guest on the show, please contact me, Lisa, at callthatgirl.biz. Thanks, gang. See you next time.